What's up, YouTube? So, I'm reading this book on the 3 C's of teaching of adults. And always, well, not always, but most of the time, I try to figure out, whenever I'm learning something, I don't just try to think about it in a box. I think of, okay, I'm learning this. Those who know me and those who are going to watch this know that I am a part-time seminary student, and I also am and then I also help teaching martial arts. So I want to, in these 3 C's of teaching of adults, I want to be able to apply it in that scenario, in the karate studio. And I'm thinking, as I read this, I'm thinking, okay, this applies to teaching the Bible and teaching in church, but does it apply there? And of course, I'm going to say yes. And what are the 3 C's? What are the 3 C's of teaching that this chapter talks about? The 3 C's of teaching are: 1 is compassion, 2 is content, and 3 is collaboration. Now, here's how I look at compassion. Compassion is, you see your student and you genuinely have compassion for their need, but you also have empathy for what they desire. But not only for what they desire, but you can see what they want even if they can't see it. So you have this huge compassion for them, and even empathy for them, and you are guiding them along the way. And that's one aspect of a great teacher, is somebody who has compassion on his student. How this works into the realm of, I think, of martial arts, is you know that you see that a student is really struggling, and you know that you've experienced that pain, and you gotta remember that pain of what it felt like to be in their shoes. You gotta reach inside and say, and draw upon that, and when you start teaching from that frame of mind, and having that type of compassion on that student, and having that special care and that special touch, then you start to have a very special connection with a student. And this goes across the board into whatever you do, and especially when it comes to teaching the Bible. If you don't have compassion on when you're teaching a scripture and you're being authoritative, nobody's going to listen to you. If you're teaching martial arts and you're being authoritative, nobody's going to have any respect for you. But when you have compassion, it goes across the board. So, that is the first C. The next C is content. A content I look at in 2 ways. One is knowing the material, knowing the stuff you're teaching, but also knowing how it applies to the student that you are teaching. If you are unable to apply the technique, or to apply scripture, or give them real life applications, then you're not going to be able to connect, and they're not going to really relate to you well. So that's another aspect of the 3 C's. This next C is called collaboration. Collaboration is, I think one of the most challenging and the most important of all teaching in all spheres, especially teaching where you have to pull out information. Anytime, like when you're teaching the Bible, you have to pull out truth. Truth isn't merely things that come in a box, but you have to pull it out. And in the martial arts, you have to pull things out. It's not that you're dumping stuff in, but to truly draw it out. A very famous, it's an old book, but a very famous book that everybody should master, by a guy by the name of John Milton McGregor. It's called The Art of Teaching. I'll give a link down onto it. In his one of his laws, in the law of the lesson, he says to teach, the best teaching is to teach on a previous knowledge. So when you are teaching, whatever you're teaching, I've seen this into when I have done a discipleship, when I have preached, and even when I have, and even when I've taught martial arts, that people have gotten things when I have made illustrations that they have connected with, that they have understood, that they have clicked with. And that was the previous knowledge that they have already had. And when you are able to draw that out and they say, they get it, and the light comes on, and then that you are collaborating with that student, and it's not you dumping information in, but you are pulling that information out, and then that great things are happening, because now that the student is not passive, he is a very active participant in the learning process, and that's what you want. You want a active participant. Now, how does these kinds of things work? The 3 C's work in teaching. Everybody will have these to a greater or lesser a degree. Some people will have a more content oriented, and some will have more knowledge of the fact, but they just can't connect well with the student. Or some people connect fantastic with the student, but they may not have all the content down. Or then that you have this other thing, compassion. Some have a varied amounts of compassion. And then that you have these others of a collaboration. You've got all these varying degrees. That's why I'm a big fan of team teaching. And the best thing to do is to find out, if you are in a team, find out where is your team? Where is your team at? And say, here are our strengths. Here are our weaknesses. And let's kind of leverage those. Leverage those strengths and weaknesses. And the more that you leverage those, that you can leverage, whether you're teaching anything, and then especially in a martial arts group setting, that you start to see the weaknesses being flushed out, that you know that they don't notice those weaknesses, they don't notice them. And then that they see, and what shines out most is your strengths. There are a variety of ways to kind of see where that's at. the best way is just kind of just to see, oh, okay, this is where is maybe to sit down, or just to observe, or just to have an outsider observe and say, wow, this is your strength, this is your strength, I see this is your strength. Let's kind of leverage that and even exchange ideas. Say, hey, I saw that you do this, I saw I did this. On these very different ideas can really start to, like I said, we want to eliminate our weaknesses and just have strength after strength after strength. And the more we have those strengths, we'll flush those weaknesses will flush out. So that's kind of what I learned this week on the 3 C's of teaching. I'd like to know your thoughts on the 3 C's of teaching. Like it at the bottom. I will also give a link to John Milton McGregor's The Art of Teaching. I believe the book is free on Google. Also, you can. I also some of the stuff I'm taking from this book, Teaching to Change Lives by Dr. Howard Hendricks. He's got some of the stuff of John Milton McGregor's. It's in a layman's terms. John Milton McGregor's book is about 100 to 200 years old, so it's going to be in that Old English type of writing. But check them out. I'm signing off.